near unto him all the publicans and sinners for to hear him. Wouldn't it be good today if everybody in leadership and everybody that was lost would come and hear what Jesus had to say? Verse number 2. The Pharisees and the scribes murmured about this, saying, and you've heard me preach just these two verses, this man receiveth sinners and eateth with them. This man receiveth sinners. I've preached that just a few months back, how that there are people today that are prejudiced. Christ received any sinner that would come. The plan of God unfolding, that He's coming soon, that before we die and say goodbye, or before we're raptured out of here, you've got to accept Him as Savior to know eternity with Him rather than eternity away from Him in a devil's hell. This is the message of the church. This is the message to the church in this passage. He starts it with those two verses as He's receiving people and He's teaching them. But it's the church. Please realize that it's the publicans and the sinners that's coming to Christ to hear what He has to say. It's the Pharisees and the scribes. It's the religious people. It's the religious leaders that's complaining in verse 2. They are complaining about Jesus accepting sinners. They're complaining about Jesus educating and sharing and speaking to sinners. I want to share with you today, I'd like to have some complaints about me besides the ones that I do. I need to hear somebody complain that I'm spending too much time teaching sinners. I'm telling you, asking you, when's the last time you had somebody complain about you teaching too much, preaching too much? I remember a minister at a funeral. The funeral was over and people were loving on one another and comforting at the death. And this preacher went over to somebody and started witnessing to them, asking them if they knew the Lord. He knew there would be a day they would have their funeral.
Yes, sir.
And it's not whether we're good or bad. There's a lot of good people headed to hell because they've never accepted Christ as their Savior. And that's the prerequisite of heaven, is to come to the Father through the Son. If you're not saved, you're headed for hell. I don't care how good you are. Give it all away and have plenty to give. But if Jesus is not in your heart, you're not ready. You're not ready.